area. So far, no one's here physically. We'll probably want to give her an extra 5 to 10 minutes based on the circumstances to see if she responds.
I do see that there are a couple of people on Zoom. Are any of those the respondent?
No, Charlene is one of our admins, and Abby is with the county attorney's office.
Okay. Thank you. I do show that it's 10 a.m. So what I would like to do is go on the record and announce who is present, and then we'll go from there. So today is September 7, 2022, or I'm sorry, 2023. The time is 10 a.m. This is the zoning violation hearing on zoning violation citation PZC 22-0031. County of Coconino versus respondents OFP and Hannah Alvarez, taking place by Zoom and at Thomas Auditorium, Department of Community Development, held pursuant to Coconino County Zoning Ordinance 5.14. Complainant Coconino County is present through Mr. Mark Stento. And am I correct that the respondent has not yet appeared?
That is correct. The respondent has not yet appeared.
Oh, you checked out in the lobby, they're not there?
That's correct.
Okay, and they're also not on the Zoom?
That is correct.
Okay, why don't we wait another 5 minutes or so as a courtesy to the responding parties, and we'll go from there.
Okay. The county has started reporting too.
Okay, you're welcome to go off the record if you'd like, but just stay available so that I can call us back in.
Absolutely. I'm going to check the lobby one more time. We'll go ahead and stay on the record.
Thank you.
And the respondent is not present.
Thank you for checking. We'll give them another 3 minutes or so.
It looks like we have someone else on the call. Hannah, is that you?
Yes.
Okay.
Miss Alvarez, Miss Alvarez, this is Howard Brown. I'm the hearing officer for today's hearing. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Are you able to turn the camera on?
No, I don't have that ability. I don't have a smartphone.
Okay. Where are you calling in from today?
I'm just calling from my cell phone, from my house.
Okay. All right, well, we are on the record. It is now 10:06 a.m. on September 7th. And Ms. Alvarez, I already called the case, but just now that you're on the phone, I'll call it again. This is the zoning violation hearing on zoning violation citation PZC 220031, County of Coconino versus respondents OFP and Hannah Alvarez. The hearing is taking place by video conference, phone for Ms. Alvarez, and at Thomas Auditorium at the Department of Community Development. And the hearing is being held pursuant to Coconino County Zoning Ordinance 5.14. Ms. Alvarez, if at any time you're having difficulty hearing me, or Mr. Stento or anyone else, please please bring that to our attention, okay?
Okay.
I do have the county's exhibits 1 through 7, including subparts, as well as a written statement from the county regarding the relief that the county is requesting. I'm not in receipt of any type of a witness list from the county, so I'm just assuming that Mr. Stento will be the sole witness to testify for the county. I also have not received any exhibits or witness lists from the respondent, so I'll just assume that Ms. Alvarez will be testifying on behalf of the respondent only. Just to very briefly lay out how the hearing is going to go today, there'll be an opportunity for the county to make a brief opening statement, and then for Ms. Alvarez to make a brief opening statement. This is not an opportunity to argue your case or to present evidence. It's just an opportunity to tell me what you think you're going to prove at the hearing today. So it's just an opportunity to kind of frame the issues for me. Once the opening statements are done, I'll hear testimony from Mr. Stento. And Ms. Alvarez, if you have any questions for Mr. Stento, you can ask those at that time. And then I'll hear testimony from Ms. Alvarez. And Ms. Alvarez, Mr. Stento might have questions for you, and I might have questions for you as well. And then we'll have a brief time for closing statements by both Mr. Stento and Ms. Alvarez. And then within 10 days or so of the end of the hearing, I will make a decision with findings and a judgment. Okay. Only evidence.
When will you make this?
Within 10 days of the end of the hearing.
Okay.
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 And of course, I expect both Mr. Stento and Ms. Alvarez to act politely and civilly towards each other, towards me, and also towards the process. And that's to help make sure that we have a fair and full hearing, and in order to protect all parties' rights. Okay. So we're still on the record, I believe. We're still recording. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. And Ms. Stento, Mr. Stento, are you prepared to proceed?
I am prepared, yes.
Ms. Alvarez, are you ready to move forward?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Stento, do you have an opening statement that you'd like to make?
I do.
Please proceed.
Thank you. So I'd like to bring to the attention of the hearing officer case PZC 22031, located at 1317 North Myrtle Way, parcel number 206-62018, located within unincorporated Coconino County, zone agricultural residential with an approximate lot size of 1 acre. Property is owned by OFP alleged to be a church represented by Hannah Alvarez for Hannah's own mission. This case was initiated in January of 2022. The county has made numerous contacts with Hannah and other residents at the property in an attempt to gain voluntary compliance in a case that has spanned approximately 1.5 years. The county provided only warnings for the first 6 months before considering escalating action to even a notice of violation. After escalation of notice of violation, the county continued to provide generous timeframes to gain compliance. This time, the county has no choice other than to escalate to citation and the requested.
Thank you, Mr. Stento. Ms. Alvarez, would you like to make an opening statement?
Well, no, I'll just answer as we go along here, I think.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I said I'll just answer the questions here as we go along. I was a little bit not prepared because I thought I had a little bit more time, but all right, go ahead.
Okay, well then, I understand that you won't be making an opening statement, and that's perfectly fine. Mr. Stento, I assume that you're going to be testifying?
That is correct.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony today?
I do.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Coconino County Code Enforcement received a phone call from a concerned citizen in the Kaibab Estates area of Coconino County on 06 January 2022, alleging the owner of 1317 North Murdo Way had accumulated a substantial amount of junk and at least one recreational vehicle on the parcel in violation of the county zoning ordinance. The reporting party noted she was concerned about safety and health issues associated with potential unlawful land use at the location. As the compliance manager for Coconino County, I visited the property on 11 January 2022. During that site visit, I noted an array of secondhand materials, household items, construction materials, and several inoperable vehicles on the property. These are demonstrated in exhibits 1A and 1B, which I asked to be admitted into evidence.
Ms. Alvarez, do you have a copy of the exhibits, the photographs and other documents that Mr. Stento is referring to?
I do, and I can bring it up here.
I'm sorry, you said you do, and what?
Yes, I have it right here, and I can bring it up. Are you referring to the first photo?
Yes, Mr. Stento is referring. He's referring to the photos that are marked 1A and 1B.
Okay.
And he's asking me to look at those photos and consider them. Do you have any objection to me looking at and considering those photos?
Well, first of all, I don't know what I don't know the extent of the law for no trespassing, but that's awfully close on the property where there's not permission given. And then, although none of this stuff is here anymore, it's been moved and cleaned.
Okay. Okay, so
Give it a back table.
you'll have an opportunity to testify under oath and tell me that stuff has all been removed. But in the meantime, I don't hear a valid objection to me looking at these photos for what they are. So I'll go ahead and admit 1A and 1B, Mr. Stento.
Thank you, Howard. And to be clear, these again were from 2022 and were from our initial investigation. So we understand that there may have been some changes since then.
So these photos are just being used to show me what you saw on January 11, 2022. Is that right?
That's correct. This documentation, the associated testimony, at this time precedes our initial notice of violation and is essentially what got us to that point.
You took these photos?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, please proceed.
Thank you, sir. During that site visit, I also noted 2 metal storage containers that appear to be modified with doors, utilities, and ventilation. as well as a large fifth wheel type recreational vehicle. Note, Exhibit 1B specifically shows those particular storage units that have been retrofitted. That would have required building permits. No permits were associated with the parcel at the time of the site visit. I knocked on the door of the RV. An adult male who identified himself as John Doe answered. I explained the zoning and building ordinance violations to John and asked him to focus on cleaning up the property and provide inspection or evidence of progress within 30 calendar days. And again, this is January 2022. John agreed and provided me with his email address, and he stated he did not have a phone. On 12 January 2022, I emailed John a link to the county zoning ordinance and reiterated our conversation for his reference. On 17 February 2022, I performed another site visit. I did not receive any correspondence from John after the initial site visit regarding the property. During the 17 February, notable changes to the condition.
Sorry, you cut out there for just a moment. Hello?
Ms. Alvarez?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. Please proceed, Mr. Stenta.
Thank you, Howard. During the 17 February 2022 site visit, I did not note any substantive change to the condition of the property. The violations remained in place. I spoke with John again, who stated he had had COVID and had been unable to work. I informed John he had 2 weeks to give me a substantive update, including specifics regarding what had been cleaned up and what would be cleaned up. I did not follow up again until 15 March 2022. I had not received correspondence from John or anyone else from the property regarding compliance efforts. I had given him a little more time under the circumstances. No permits had been initiated. I performed another site visit on 15 March 2022. And I noted a few items had been moved around and removed, but the property largely remained as it was.
Mr. Stenta?
I'm sorry, sir.
I'm sorry, so now you're up to a third site visit?
Yes, sir.
What was the date of the third site visit?
15 March 2022.
Okay, thank you.
This would largely be a theme for the property, and then things would over the next year be moved around, but not substantively abated. I asked that Exhibit 1C photographed during the 15 March inspection be admitted into evidence.
So this is a photograph that you took on 3/15?
That is correct.
Ms. Alvarez, any objection to me considering photograph 1C?
I guess not. If people can trespass and take pictures and those can be used as an exhibit, then that's that.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Alvarez. Mr. Stento, please continue.
Thank you. At that time, 15 March, I spoke with John again, who was still residing at the property in the recreational vehicle, and I gave him another 30-day inspection deadline. I noted a notice of violation may be issued if significant progress was not documented at that time. To be clear, but until this point, we had only issued warnings and attempted to get John and the other responsible parties to begin voluntary cleanup. On April 2022, I performed a progress check on the property. Minor progress was noted, no permits issued, and the violations not substantively abated. John was not present, but an adult female later identified as Hannah Alvarez exited the RV and spoke with me. Provided Hannah background on my previous conversations with John and explained the county's case against the property. I informed Hannah more progress would be needed to avoid any escalation on the county's end, but to be clear, I again provided another warning. At that point, I provided Hannah some additional time to initiate compliance efforts. I did not re-inspect the property until 07 July of 2022, which is about a 3-month time frame. for some sort of work to be done out there. In consideration of the fact I had not dealt with Hannah specifically before. At the time of inspection, no permits had been initiated. During re-inspection, I did not note any substantive changes since the 06 April visit. Hannah was again residing on site in the RV, and I informed her no additional warnings would be provided. Violations needed to be substantively abated by August, or a notice of violation would be issued. That is August 2022. On 02 August 2022, I visited the property another time. I had not received any correspondence from Hannah or John. On that site visit on 02 August 2022, I did not note any substantive changes, and the property looked largely as depicted in exhibits 1A, 1B, and 1C. Some stuff had been moved around. The metal storage containers, they're more like homes or offices, remained unpermitted. The RV remained occupied and unpermitted. There were numerous unscreened vehicle parts, secondhand materials, other items scattered around the property. By and large, the violations remained in place. At that point, a notice of violation was drafted and issued via certified mail the same day. This is included as Exhibit 1, which I asked to be admitted into evidence.
Ms. Alvarez, any objection to me considering exhibit number 1? That's the document that's called Notice of Violation. It's 3 pages long. 4 pages, actually. 5 pages.
No objection.
Okay. That's admitted. Mr. Stento, we didn't talk about 1D. Do you need to refer to that at all?
Yes, excuse me. I should have asked that to be admitted into evidence. 1D is aerial imagery taken by Google Earth. That shows that's 2021 imagery. So that predates our initial investigation, but that's indicative of the unpermitted metal storage container type homes or accessory structures or dwellings, as well as the RV. They were in the same place there, and you can see some of the inoperable vehicles that were there at our initial site visit, as represented in 1A and 1B in that aerial imagery. And I do ask that 1D be admitted into evidence as well.
Ms. Alvarez, any objection to Exhibit 1D? That's the Google Earth aerial photograph.
No.
So, Mr.
Okay.
Stento, this is imagery from 2021, you said, right?
That is correct.
From your observations, though, the locations of those 3 structures that are circled were in the same location when you did your site visits?
That is correct. The implication being the violation had been in place some time before our initial site visit. You can also see on the metal storage containers the exhaust at the tops of the structures, indicative of utility installation out there that would have been under the scope of a permit. Again, some vehicles that were photographed and some of the other exhibits, excuse me, that were inoperable.
So from your observation, those 3 structures that are circled, 2 of those are metal storage units?
2 of those are converted metal storage containers with exhaust coming out the ceiling and doors on the sides. They've been converted. We did not gain injury to them at any point. Metal storage containers by themselves, even if no work had been done to them, do require permits in Coconino County. However, any structure that is used as an accessory dwelling or accessory structure, so a home or an office or anything with utilities installed in it, is under the scope of a building permit, which is above and beyond, of course, a metal storage container permit. That's a fairly big deal for us. We don't know if people are living in there using them as offices or what they're doing.
And then the third one is an RV.
That is the RV that's been continually occupied. That is the easternmost object in the aerial imagery. Circle.
You left off talking
Will I
about
be
the
able to
notice.
answer to this one? Will I be able to answer to that at all? Or do I have to wait?
Yeah, yes, Ms. Alvarez, during your testimony, you'll be able to respond to all of this. And you'll also have an opportunity to ask questions of Mr. Stento when he's done
Okay.
testifying. So take
All right.
notes or remember what you want to ask or what you want to testify about, okay?
All right, thank you.
You bet. Okay, Mr. Stento?
May I proceed?
Yes, please.
I would like to note that the Exhibit 1 also includes the affidavit of service. This was personally served onto Ms. Alvarez by me on 05 August of 2022. After service of the notice of violation, code enforcement did not follow up with the case for several months, again providing a generous compliance timeframe. No permits were initiated during that time, and no correspondence was received from anyone associated with the property. Another site visit was performed on 08 November of 2022. So no site visits were performed between service of the notice of violation on 05 August 2022 and 08 November 2022. Based on the previous site inspection, a final notice of violation was prepared prior to the site so that site visit on 08 November 2022 noted no substantive change to the violations. They were still in place, no significant cleanup on the property. A final notice of violation was drafted before the next site visit, which occurred on 01 December of 2022. Before attempting to serve the final notice on Hannah, I documented several inoperable vehicles, numerous vehicle parts, household items, refuse, the same unpermitted metal storage container type structures, and the RV on the property. Prior to service of the final notice, I took photos shown in exhibits 2A and 2B, which I asked be admitted into evidence.
Okay, so you took these the 2A and 2B, you took these photos during your site visit on December 1, 2022?
Correct, prior to service of the final notice of violation.
Ms. Alvarez, any objection to me considering the photographs that are labeled 2A and 2B?
No, except for that, I mean, should they still be accepted if those vehicles are no longer there?
You'll be able to tell me that during your testimony.
Okay,
But for the
all
time
right. I just
being,
want to make sure that I wasn't agreeing to something that.
yeah, no, this
Oh,
is
okay.
I would just be looking at these to see what Mr. Stento saw on December 1, 2022.
Okay, I see. So I'm agreeing that you can look at them.
Okay,
Right.
thank you, Ms. Alvarez. So
Right, okay.
2A and 2B are admitted, and just to clarify, exhibits 1 and 1D are also admitted, if I didn't already say that.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. May I proceed?
Yes, please.
Based on the lack of substantive abatement to the violations on the property, the final notice was at that same day, 01 December 2022, served personally on to Hannah Alvarez by me at 14:48 hours. That final notice is shown in Exhibit 2, which I asked be admitted into evidence.
Ms. Alvarez, do you have any objection to me considering Exhibit 2? That's the final notice that was delivered to you by Mr. Stento on December 7, 2022.
No, I did not.
Thank you. Exhibit 2 is admitted. Go ahead, Mr. Stento.
Did not re-inspect the property until 26 January 2023 to provide Hannah a bit of extra time. It was a rough winter last year, and we knew that had affected the region, would probably affect some cleanup out there. During the 26 January 23 inspection, some of the unscreened secondhand materials, construction materials, and vehicle parts had been removed. The violations remained unabated, but based on a small amount of progress, we did schedule a follow-up for March, providing again a fairly generous compliance timeframe. On 10 March 2023, I received an email from Hannah stating the weather, road, and ground conditions from significant precipitation had created difficulties with her compliance efforts. I replied to Hannah on 11 March 2023 via email that I was aware conditions were poor, but the property needed to resume efforts as soon as possible. I did postpone the March inspection, however, at that time. I did not re-inspect the property until 22 June 2023. There was significant precipitation in the area, so we gave Hannah some additional time, several months actually, beyond the March re-inspection time, to substantively abate the violations on the property. This time, Code Enforcement Officer John Cole, with me today, performed the site visit, took photos, and we reviewed them together. While some items had been moved around, the zoning and building violations, and to be clear, all 4 violations cited remained unabated. No permits had been initiated for the property. To be clear, a storage container, home type structures would need permits or need to be removed. The RV occupancy needs a permit as well. Unscreened secondhand materials, construction materials, vehicle parts, refuse, household items, and inoperable vehicles remained on the property, as did the occupied RV and the converted metal storage containers. Exhibits 3A, 3B, 3C, and 3D were taken that day, and I asked if they be admitted into evidence.
So those were taken on June 22nd, 2023?
That is correct.
And they were taken by Mr. John Cole?
Code Enforcement Officer John Cole, correct.
C-O-L-E?
K-O-L-E.
K-O-L-E? Ms. Alvarez, do you have any objection to me considering the photographs that are marked 3A, 3B, 3C, and 3D?
No, sir.
Okay, with no objection, those exhibits are admitted. Mr. Stento, please proceed.
Thank you. After reviewing the status of the property as documented on 22 June 2023, a citation, commissioner denial responsibility, and notice to appear were drafted. Citation, notice to appear, and commissioner denial were mailed on 30 June 2023 via certified mail after a failed in-person attempt to serve them onto Hannah by code enforcement. That citation, notice to appear, and the return completed inter-admission or denial responsibility are shown in exhibits 3, 4, and 5 respectively, and I ask that they be admitted into evidence.
Does exhibit 5 include that return certified mail slip?
It does. That is correct. That certified mail slip was served on 06 July based on the Postal Service's stamp and the signature.
Ms. Alvarez, do you have any objection to me considering exhibits 3, 4, and 5? That's the zoning violation citation, the notice to appear, and the admission or denial of responsibility?
No, sir.
Okay, with no objection, exhibits 3, 4, and 5 are admitted. Please proceed.
As I noted, these items were served onto Ms. Alvarez via certified mail. A denial of responsibility was received by code enforcement via mail on 24 July 2023, again shown in Exhibit 5, with a stamp and a signature. A pre-hearing compliance check was completed on 06 September 2023, so yesterday. We did note that Hannah had made some efforts in cleaning up the property. However, the 4 listed violations remain unabated. No permits have been issued or even initiated. And while we appreciate some of the cleanup efforts that have occurred, the zoning violations remain in place as well as the structures and the RV.
Mr. Stento?
Yes,
Who conducted the inspection yesterday?
Code Enforcement Officer John Cole. I should note too, I didn't have those in my exhibit thing. Thank you for asking that. Mr. Cole's photographs were documented in exhibits 7A and 7B, which I asked to be admitted into evidence. However, note that Ms. Alvarez was not provided these, as we had sent her the exhibits prior to yesterday when these were collected. So I can show these and share my screen now for Ms. Alvarez's viewing, if that's acceptable.
Ms. Alvarez, but you're just on your phone. You can't see, right?
No.
Okay.
What exhibit are these again?
Pardon?
What exhibit are these again?
Mr. Stento wants me to consider 2 photographs that were taken at the property yesterday. One of them shows an RV with an exhaust coming out the side of it and what appears to be a black water tank. And the other photograph appears to show a black water tank, a pickup truck, and some other materials.
A pickup truck. And you said a black water tank?
Yeah, black or green water tank. I'm actually not going to admit these exhibits, Mr. Stento, because they haven't been shared with Ms. Alvarez, understandably, because the photos were just taken yesterday. And there's really no good way for her to be able to see them and make a fair objection. So 7A and 7B are not admitted, and I will not be considering them.
Understood.
Okay, Ms. Alvarez, what I just explained to Mr. Stento is that these 2 last photographs are not going to be considered by me, okay?
Okay.
And the reason is because you haven't had a fair chance to look at them.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Stento, please proceed.
Coconino County requests the defendant be found responsible for the following violations: unscreened storage of outdoor, unlicensed, and/or inoperable vehicles.
Hold on 1 second, Mr. Stento. Did you want me to consider Exhibit 6?
Exhibit 6 are case notes in there. I do not wish for those to be considered at this time. Those were simply in there for casual reference.
Okay. Okay, I'm sorry I interrupted you. Please proceed.
Oh, quite all right. May I proceed?
Yes, please.
Moving on to responsibility and relief requested by the county, we request the defendant be found responsible for the following violations: unscreened outdoor storage of unlicensed and or inoperable vehicles, unscreened outdoor storage of vehicle parts, secondhand materials, construction materials, refuse, household items, unpermitted RVs and or travel trailers used as a permanent residence and or accessory structure, and unpermitted construction. Each of these items is documented in the exhibits that were outlined in my testimony. Coconino County requests relief as follows: on or before 07 October 2023, any unlicensed vehicles that are on the parcel shall either be removed from the parcel and made operable and or licensed as applicable. On or before 07 October 2023, any remaining secondhand materials, refuse, vehicle parts, tires, appliances, household furniture shall be removed from the parcel. On or before 07 October 2023, permits shall be issued for the converted metal storage containers on the parcel, or the containers shall be removed. On or before 07 October 2023, a temporary use permit or conditional use permit shall be issued for the occupied RV fifth wheel on the parcel, where the RV or fifth wheel shall be removed. Further, if items 1 through 4 are not fully accomplished on or before 07 October 2023, pursuant to Coconino County zoning ordinance section 514C4A III, Coconino County requests imposing of a $250 non-compliance penalty to immediately. For each day of non-compliance after 07 October 2023, daily penalty of $80 per day is requested. Note the maximum cumulative amount of daily penalties is $1,500. Should that balance reach $1,500, the matter shall be referred to the county attorney's office for additional legal action. The county wishes to conclude its testimony then.
Okay. Mr. Stento, I guess I don't quite understand. So you're asking for a $250 penalty, and then for each continuing day, $80 per day per violation?
$80 per day is the total of all of the violations there. So it's a flat $80 per day. We are assessing $20 per violation per day at a total of $80 per day cumulative.
And you're saying if the violations continue so long that adds up to $1,500, that's where you're asking for it to be capped in a sense?
That is where we will refer to the case to the county attorney's office for potential litigation.
Okay.
Understand the relief request is a bit of a variation from our past relief requests in the hearings. If you have any additional clarifications you would like me to make, please let me know.
No, it just seems, you're not seeking the maximum that you're allowed to seek. You're seeking far, far, far less. Is that correct?
That's correct.
If I understand correctly. Okay. And in fact, you're asking for yet another month for Ms. Alvarez to bring the property into compliance.
That is correct.
Okay.
We want to give Ms. Alvarez every opportunity she can to come into compliance. That is our goal, not penalizing Ms. Alvarez, OFP, or any of the other stakeholders in the problem.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Mr. Stento. Miss Alvarez.
Yes.
So you now have an opportunity to ask questions of Mr. Stento, if you want to, or you
Okay.
can simply testify regarding your position on any of these issues. So do you have any questions that you would like to ask Mr. Stento about his testimony?
I had one question about what date did you say that the charges would start? The 200, and then the 80 from then on. Did you say October?
Mr. Brown, I'm having a hard time hearing that. Could you relay that for me?
Miss Alvarez, are you asking what day the penalties will start?
Yes, sir.
So,
07 October 2023, in approximately, well, exactly 1 month.
do you understand that, Ms. Alvarez?
Yes.
So that's not necessarily what I would order if I find you responsible, but that's what Mr. Stento is requesting. He wants me to say that if there are violations and if they're not fixed by October 7, that the penalties would start on that day. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you have any other questions for Mr. Stento?
No, I don't have any more questions.
Okay. Well, then this is now your turn to testify. So I will put you under oath and then you can tell me your version, your perspective of what's going on at the property, okay?
Okay.
So I'm going to ask you to raise your right hand and I'm going to trust that you're doing that since I can't see you. And
Yes,
I'm
sir.
okay. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony today?
Yes, sir.
All right, please go right ahead then and tell me your account.
Okay. Well, first of all, the shipping containers, I thought that Mr. Santo had said that so long as we just get the stuff cleaned up in the front, that they would probably that it would be a non-issue. And so I didn't, and that wasn't written in the notice of violation either. So I wasn't worrying about the shipping containers, which now I am. But so that's kind of new news to me. I didn't know that you had to have some kind of permit or not have them at all or whatever. But the only permit that I received in the Coconino County portal was one for RV residency, which I didn't fill because nobody lives in the RV. It's used for people to come, stay, watch the property, leave, come back, stay, watch the property, and it switches out amongst members. Because of that, because we had to kind of back off from that a little bit, we did it with a squatter here. He left a lot of trash. I've been picking up after that for the last several months. And he's still been a bit of a pest and hasn't gotten all of his crap off of there. So I'm wondering about those. If you could, I wonder if you could send me those pictures, because I'm thinking that it's that guy's stuff at the very end, which is not on our property anymore. If he's referring to a truck, a pickup truck. So that's been an issue and a pain in my butt. And this guy's gone so far as to threaten myself and my kids. So I'm just trying to pick that up right now. Also, oh gosh, I didn't write it down. Now I forgot. I'm just really trying to just get everything cleaned up and out of the way. I'd like to sell this property and just get off of it, which is, I mean, I spent lots of money trying to get hiring a contractor to come clean up a bunch of the mess. And he backed out and I lost a bunch of money there. And so I simply don't have the money to even move the shipping containers at the moment. The rest of it I could probably get cleaned up. That's what I'm working on today. That's what I'm actually been able to get a bit of it done. Some of the trailers have gotten off the property. Some of the vehicles have gotten off the property, and several other things. And the only thing I could not possibly get off of the property, because I do not have the money for it at all, is the shipping containers. And that would not be ready by October. So, I don't know. I mean, would I still be charged for penalties for the shipping containers? because I didn't even know that they were an issue until recently, or just now. I didn't know that that was something I had to deal with at the moment. I was trying to focus on the trash that this person left, and then trying to pick up around this RV and get it moved and parked away so it's cleaner and nicer around here, and looks a little bit more together. So having to go back and forth and not being able to allow people to stay for too long here to watch the property or to clean it has been a bit of a pain, because it's really time consuming. But I would like to work towards selling this property. That's what I really want to do as soon as possible. And I don't want to have something like this stopping it from happening. So any way that I can make that possible, to be able to get this cleaned up, put it on the market, then maybe I'd have some money to be able to move the shipping containers to a different location. Which also, I mean, the shipping containers, those are not. Oh, actually, I know what he means by exhaust. Never mind. Yeah, that's all I can think of at the moment. But and Mr. Santos and Mr. Cole have been very polite and patient, and I thank them very much for that. I just don't really know what to do, and I don't really have the funds to move it that quickly. And it might seem like a lot of time, but it's not a lot of time for me to get things moved out of here, especially when I don't have the manpower or the money. But I also thought that I had a little bit more time. I thought that I had until the hearing. I thought that I had until next month. But then I thought that by denial, it was the better way to go. That was after I talked to Mark, and I guess I misunderstood what he said, and I thought that was the one that meant that I could get an extra month before the hearing. And so I just saw those pictures, the exhibit pictures, just yesterday, and so I've been rushing to just try to get everything together. So I don't really have any of my statements together or anything like that. All I know is that I just am working towards getting this done to the best of my ability and to the best of the church's ability. And I just want to sell it and get the heck, be done with this property, to tell you the truth. So I think that's all I have to say for right now.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Alvarez. I appreciate that, and we'll consider it. Mr. Stento, do you have any questions for Ms. Alvarez?
I do not have any questions. I have several comments, if that's acceptable, Mr. Brown.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Ms. Alvarez, to address you directly, the metal storage containers were included in some of our early conversations, and they were included in both notices of violations as unpermitted construction. There are, in terms of abatement, some unorthodox processes that could be used to abate those. They are metal storage containers. They should have building permits now. Now, I mentioned that there is a metal storage container permit through the county that is substantively less difficult to get. If all the utilities or other items on those metal storage containers were stripped and they were left as metal storage containers, boarded up, or something equivalent, and we could confirm that on site inspection, you could potentially permit those as simply metal storage containers instead of dwellings. If they are just used for storage, they have to be gutted as well. You mentioned in your testimony, Ms. Alvarez, that the RV was only occupied in a transient manner. To be clear, transient occupancy of an RV, so staying on the property occasionally in an RV, is still within the scope of permitting and still within the scope of the zoning ordinance violations listed in both notices of violation, excuse me, and the citation. That could be abated by a temporary use permit for the RV occupancy for 120 days. It would certainly buy you some time. After that, you would have to either remove it or apply for a conditional use permit that requires a hearing. It's unlikely the conditional use permit would be granted under the circumstances and existing code violations on the property. However, the temporary use permit would provide at least a short-term path forward for legitimacy of the RV occupancy, and it is relatively inexpensive. The cleanup of the other items speaks for itself. The inoperable vehicles and the secondhand materials, all that needs to be gone. I hope that addresses some of the somewhat indirect questions you had during your testimony, and we have nothing further.
Miss Alvarez, when you were talking about people staying in the RV, they would just come, they'd watch over the property, and then they would leave in a short period of time. How long are people staying there?
It's anywhere from a week to 2 weeks.
And is it the same? And then how long do they leave for?
About the same amount. And I've had to be here a little bit more than that, just because of other people having family issues, or they can't get up here or whatever. But lately, it's just been coming up because I'm trying not to have anybody really in there. But yeah, I'm working on shutting that down too, because I just want to be able to secure everything on the property, so that because there's a lot of debris around here, which is the main reason why I wanted somebody here at all times to be watching the property, because it's just constant out here. And
so when you're there, do you stay in the RV?
I do.
Okay. And how often are you there?
I am out here at least once a month, anywhere from a week or 2 weeks, or 2 days sometimes. It just depends.
Okay.
Also, I wanted to say the shipping containers do not have running water or electricity in them. They've only been equipped with the louver vent windows, I think they're called, and the little whirly birds on the top, and a space for a chimney to go out. But it does not have heating, cooling, running water, electricity. It has none of that. I wanted to eventually one day have that, but they don't have that right now. They are simply storage at the moment. Which I did read recently, and maybe this would work in the situation, that there was there's something for metal shipping containers being allowed for emergency. I don't know, I'd call it kind of emergency.
So, Mr. Stento, what's your knowledge, your direct knowledge of these storage units having been converted to dwellings such that they would require a permit?
To be clear, they would require a permit no matter what. But as far as a building permit is concerned, we can see the whirligigs on the top. They clearly have ventilation installed on them, as visible in the photographs all along it. While it is somewhat presumptive to conclude that the doors installed, and the retrofits to the metal storage containers make them into an accessory dwelling, it would certainly make them into an accessory structure, which falls under the scope, again, of a building permit in Coconino County.
So you see ventilation, you see installed doors, and what other type of retrofits?
That's the extent of what I see. I see installed the whirligigs on the top. We assume an air handler is installed at some point as well. Again, they have a door installed. They've been modified heavily. We see this in other parts of the county. Metal storage containers are very frequently modified for use as something of a symbol to convert tiny home. Modifications like this are very consistent with that. We have a substantial amount of anecdotal evidence to support that, at least in terms of our on-the-fly assessment out there on the property. But again, Ms. Alvarez has some abatement opportunities outside of permitting them as structures. We are certainly willing to work with her on that are less costly and time and labor intensive than pursuing building.
So, do you have any reason to doubt Ms. Alvarez's statement that there's no electricity or running water to them?
I will take it at her word. I do believe we could find doubt in the electricity component, but I'm going to go ahead and say no. We'll take her word.
But what you're telling me though is that if it's been converted into a dwelling unit, it would require a building permit. But even if it's not a dwelling unit, it would still require it would still be considered an accessory structure that would require a permit.
Yes, sir. Anything that is not a less than 200 square foot shed that is used exclusively for storage and has no utilities installed will require a building permit in Coconino County. Any metal storage container that is simply a metal storage container and placed on the ground and used only for that purpose, storage, would also require a permit. The second you touch that and put indoors and it becomes a structure that someone can walk in and out and use as an office, use as a bedroom, use as a who knows what, that would trigger a building permit at minimum to ensure it complies with our standards for an accessory structure. That doesn't necessarily mean it would require a full permit as a single family dwelling, but there are, of course, tiers for various types of structures in the county.
Okay. And the citations that were issued were for, with respect to the metal storage units, the citation referred to unpermitted construction. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay.
It did not refer to an unpermitted dwelling or a specific type of dwelling, simply that the structures, as observed, fall under the scope of the county's adopted building codes when they have doors and ventilation put in, and people all of a sudden walk in and out of them and use them as other types of structures. That's no longer a metal storage container exclusively, and it is not a less than 200 square foot shed either.
Okay. So when it comes to the metal, I just want to make sure I understand. When it comes to the metal storage unit, plural, metal storage units, the citation was for unpermitted construction.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. And Mr. Cento, what is how did you confirm that there were no permits initiated or issued for any of these issues?
All of our permits are tracked electronically. Everything is available at a glance via the county's permit portal. We can search by address, by parcel number. We check on these things on a regular basis, and no permits have been initiated or issued for the parcel.
So that's an online system?
That is correct. 100% online.
And you can check it?
That is correct.
Got it. Okay. And on the inoperable vehicles, unlicensed and inoperable vehicles, how did you confirm that those vehicles were unlicensed and inoperable?
Visually, one of the vehicles that was photographed by Code Enforcement Officer John Cole's visit yesterday was looked like a water tanker on the west end of the property. That vehicle has not moved since I initiated contact on the case in January of 2022. The other vehicle, we've seen often on the property, and it has flat tires. Now, the exhibit was not admitted into evidence, but John photographed it yesterday. And that vehicle's external appearance would be indicative, and it also did not have plates. Would be indicative of inoperability, but again, it didn't have plates.
The second one that you described had no plates. What about the water tanker? Did that have plates?
The water tanker did not have plates.
Ms. Alvarez, do you have any questions to follow up on the questions that I just asked?
Yeah, is he referring to the water tank, the vehicle? The vehicle water tank, what water tank is he referring to? Or Mr. Senator, what water tank are you referring to?
Hannah, it's over on, I'm trying to find a picture of it. It's over behind the RV, off closer to Murdo Road. Kind of hidden in the juniper back there.
Okay, yes, that does have a license plate.
It needs to be operable as well, and I haven't seen that vehicle move in 2 years.
Right. Yes, that one's has a farm vehicle, a license plate, and the one that has flat tires only recently was out of commission. Because believe it or not, even with flat tires, they were able to pump them up, and it's able to move and do work here, and that's also a farm vehicle. So there was something else I was going to say about that. Oh, the shipping containers. I got it. I need to be writing notes. What did you say before the vehicles here? I had a question about that.
Pardon?
What were you asking him about before the vehicles?
I was asking about the metal storage units. And
Okay, that's what I wanted to say. Is that originally he had asked me about them. I told him, yep, they're just storage containers right now. That they don't have electricity or anything. And I said I do eventually want to do that. And he told me then that I would need to get a permit for that, and because then they would be a dwelling, etc., etc. So that was all that I knew about that. As far as the shipping containers go, unless I didn't hear him tell me otherwise, but as far as I knew, all I needed to do was get a permit for them once I did put electricity in them, and AC or heating, cooling, So as now though, they're still they do have a man door. There's, like I said, the louver windows, whirlybirds, and that's it for now. And a spot for a smokestack. But yeah, that's all I knew about them at that time. He did say once I got electricity installed, they would be considered a dwelling. But I don't recall him saying that they needed them at that time, that I needed to have a permit for them at that moment, as they were before electricity.
all right, thank you, Ms. Alvarez. Mr. Stento, would you like to make a closing statement?
No, I would not, Mr. Brown. Thank you for your consideration.
Ms. Alvarez, would you like to make a closing statement or closing argument?
Only that as I said, I do not have the money nor the manpower to get a lot of this stuff done, and I'm really thankful for everybody's cooperation and patience and consideration. And my only desire is to just be able to sell this property, get everything moved off as possible, and clear out of here. And if I can have the time to do that and get that done without being charged, I guess, a reasonable price, thank you, but that's still a lot for me, and it's not something I could possibly even do at all. So I do want to work with you guys, and I do want to get this cleared out of the way. It's been just a plague on my life right now, and I just want to get it out of the way as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Alvarez. I do understand. The zoning ordinance, what the zoning ordinance says happens next is that it says at the conclusion of the hearing or within 10 days, I will make a decision, including findings and a judgment. Okay, so I will issue a written decision within the next 10 days. However, I am also prepared to preview that for you now, okay? So I am going to find, Ms. Alvarez, that you are in violation of the zoning code, certainly with respect to violations 1, 2, and 3 in the citation, and perhaps also in violation of 4, although I need to look at that in a little bit more detail, and I'll explain that in my written decision. So again, I am finding that you're in violation of 1, 2, and 3, and perhaps 4. And I am going to award the relief that Mr. Stento has requested, which is that you need to solve these things by October 7, and if not, financial penalties will start to add up, okay? And so I encourage the two of you to talk to each other in the coming days, see if there are any solutions. Mr. Stento offered several different ways that you can address these, including by getting permits for things. And so I encourage you to do that. If there are any solutions reached before I issue a written decision, please notify me. Mr. Stento, I'm going to put that burden on you to notify me. Otherwise, my written decision will issue within the next 10 days. And like I said, I want to be very clear. It is going to find that you're in violation of 1, 2, and 3, and perhaps 4, that you have until October 7 to get these issues resolved. And if not, the financial penalties will start. Okay, Ms. Alvarez?
Okay, so may I ask you a question?
Sure.
So I'm still being fined for unpermitted RV, even though it's not being lived in.
Well, I think my findings are going to be that it is being lived in. It's being used as a residence.
Okay, so how little would somebody need to be there to make it not a residence in your eyes? Once a week or once a month for a week?
I can't answer that. What I do is make a decision based on the facts that are in front of me, not like a hypothetical. I don't give advice on how things would be different. I just make a decision based on the facts that are in front of me.
Okay.
All right.
And the unpermitted construction, I did not know that referred to the shipping containers at all. So
I do.
Me not knowing, I guess, doesn't mean anything anyway. So.
Well, no, I understand. I do understand where you're coming from on that one, and that's why I said I need to look at that one in a little bit more detail. But I don't want to delay. You know, I'm going to issue a written decision, but I don't want to cause any delay in the possibility that you guys can talk to each other and see if you can reach some solutions. But more importantly, I don't want to delay the time that you have, Ms. Alvarez, to get things cleaned up. So I don't want you to wait while you're waiting for me to issue a written decision.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Okay, well, thank you all very much for your time. Written decision will be forthcoming, and we can now go off the record and you can each sign off.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Alvarez.